The Krodan were a race notorious throughout the galaxy for their merciless conquest of weaker worlds, taking what they wanted and leaving a wake of destruction. They were technologically advanced to a terrifying degree, their warships bristling with weaponry that could shatter planets. Their soldiers, clad in impervious armor and trained in brutal combat tactics, were the embodiment of Krodan's supremacy. To the Krodan, any species that couldn't resist their might was barely worth recognition. Earth, with its diverse cultures and technology still far behind interstellar standards, seemed like nothing more than an easy conquest. Leading the invasion was High Commander Velrix, a Krodan general feared and respected across the Empire. Velrix took immense pride in his lineage and his battle record. No civilization he had invaded had ever managed even the slightest resistance. His conquests were decisive, swift, and often brutal. To him, Earth was just another world that would fall to the Krodan without a fight, another symbol of his unbroken legacy. Velrix looked down upon humanity with disdain, seeing the people of Earth as little more than primitive life forms, unable to comprehend the Krodan's superiority. He was eager to wipe out any futile attempt at defense, and claim yet another victory. When the invasion began, Krodan forces descended on Earth with overwhelming force. Their ships filled the skies, raining destruction down on major cities and military outposts. Earth's defenses, despite being well prepared, proved ineffective against the relentless onslaught. Fighter jets, missiles, and other advanced weaponry were either obliterated or neutralized before they even reached the Krodan ships. The Krodan had a precise understanding of Earth's military capabilities, and they exploited every weakness with devastating accuracy. Within hours, entire regions were left in ruins, and Earth's armed forces were scattered, struggling to regroup. In city after city, the same story unfolded. Buildings collapsed under relentless bombardments, communication networks failed, and hope began to fade. The people who could take shelter huddled in fear, watching as their world was torn apart. On the ground, Krodan soldiers landed and moved methodically, their weapons vaporizing anything in their path. High Commander Velrix watched the chaos from his flagship, his satisfaction growing as reports came in of humanity's rapid collapse. He ordered his commanders to broadcast a message to all of Earth. In a tone laced with contempt, he declared Earth defeated, mocking humanity's feeble attempts to resist. He demanded unconditional surrender, promising annihilation to anyone who dared stand against the Krodan Empire. His tone was cold, devoid of mercy, as if he were discussing the extermination of pests. However, beneath the surface chaos, human leaders, scientists, and strategists were hard at work. Even as cities fell, they were devising a plan that might offer a glimmer of hope. High-ranking officials and scientific minds met in hidden, fortified bunkers, working around the clock to develop a response. They knew they couldn't defeat the Krodan in direct combat. The alien technology and sheer numbers were too much. But they also knew that humanity was resilient, innovative, and capable of adapting even in dire circumstances. If there was any chance of survival, they would have to rely on something the Krodan would never expect. Rumors began to circulate among the underground networks and resistance cells about a hidden fleet. This fleet, built in secret for years as a precautionary measure, was equipped with experimental weapons and advanced shielding. It was humanity's last hope, a covert force that could potentially strike back against the Krodan if used with the right strategy. The scientists worked tirelessly, modifying and improving their designs in response to the Krodan's attacks. They knew they would have only one chance to make this work, one final stand that could either turn the tide or be Earth's last gasp. In hidden bunkers and makeshift command centers, Earth's leaders united, determined to fight until the very end. They began coordinating across continents, pulling resources, preparing defenses, and organizing their remaining forces. They knew this would be no ordinary battle. It would be a test of their resolve, a stand to protect everything they held dear. High Commander Velrix, fully convinced of Earth's utter defeat, issued a broadcast that echoed across the planet. His voice carried a mocking tone, dripping with contempt as he addressed humanity. He declared their resistance meaningless, their efforts laughable, and their civilization an insignificant blip in the grand scheme of the galaxy. Velrix spoke of Earth as a mere footnote in Krodan history, a minor conquest with no lasting impact. He sneered at human culture and ingenuity, dismissing the depth of their achievements as nothing more than the crude efforts of a backward species. In his mind, Earth was conquered, its people broken, and its fate sealed. The Krodan forces, similarly arrogant, settled into a celebratory complacency. They established a temporary base on Earth's surface, seeing no need for additional defenses. The soldiers shared stories of conquests past, boasting of their brutal victories, confident that humanity had been effectively subdued. To them, Earth was simply another acquisition, its resources ripe for extraction, its people insignificant. They reveled in their presumed victory, so blinded by their superiority that they saw no need to monitor human activity or question their complete lack of resistance. They set up harvesting operations and began extracting resources, ignoring any signs that could hint at an impending backlash. Meanwhile, under the surface, humanity was preparing for a counter-strike. While the Krodan celebrated, scientists, engineers, and military leaders across Earth were working around the clock. Their last line of defense, the Hidden Fleet, had been built over years of secretive development, away from the prying eyes of any potential threats. This fleet was far more advanced than anything Earth had used in battle, armed with cutting-edge energy weapons and powered by newly developed shielding technologies. Hidden in deep space bunkers and underground facilities, the fleet was humanity's ace in the hole, a final effort to protect their world and prove they would not be subdued. The fleet's engineers had anticipated such a scenario, knowing that humanity's survival might one day rely on outsmarting a technologically superior force. The weapons were designed not for brute force but for strategic, precise strikes capable of exploiting any enemy's vulnerabilities. Working tirelessly, the scientists and engineers refined their weapons, adjusting their tactics to fit the information they had gathered about the Krodan. They identified weak points in the Krodan's defensive formations, studied their ship configurations, and noted their over-reliance on brute strength rather than adaptability. Every part of the plan was aimed at exploiting the Krodan's arrogance, which would lead them to underestimate humanity's resourcefulness. The military leaders coordinated with these scientists, developing a battle strategy that would take full advantage of the Krodan's blind spots. They intended to leverage the surprise factor, using guerrilla tactics and precise, unexpected strikes to disable key Krodan assets and disrupt their command structure. Humanity couldn't afford a drawn-out battle. They needed to cripple the Krodan quickly, decisively, and with minimal resources. The plan was risky, but Earth's leaders had faith in their people's resilience and ability to rise to any challenge. They believed that by striking with enough precision and force, they could make the Krodan realize the fatal error of underestimating their resolve. On the ground, civilians and military personnel alike prepared for the inevitable battle. In the midst of the ruins, people gathered in whatever safe spaces remained, quietly but fervently rallying around the idea of a final stand. People from every background, profession, and age worked side by side, contributing however they could. Some offered their technical expertise, assisting engineers and scientists. Others provided supplies or comfort to those who needed it, bolstering spirits and ensuring that the morale of the people remained unbroken. Even the injured and elderly offered whatever help they could, determined to stand against the Krodan in any way possible. In the hearts of the people, a fierce resolve grew. Though the Krodan had taken much, they had failed to break the indomitable spirit of humanity. It was this spirit that fueled Earth's last effort to resist, a quiet yet powerful defiance that no conqueror could snuff out. Everyone knew that the odds were stacked against them, but they found strength in unity. From the young soldiers preparing for their first battle to the seasoned veterans coordinating the effort, each person was committed to proving that Earth would not fall without a fight. As the Hidden Fleet's countdown began, a sense of anticipation filled the air. The people of Earth, united and ready, prepared to launch their counterattack. The Krodan's complacency had left them vulnerable, and humanity would make them pay dearly for that oversight. The stage was set for a bold, decisive move that would shock the invaders to their core, challenging everything they thought they knew about humanity. The silence in the Krodan base was shattered by a sudden and overwhelming assault. Humanity's fleet, long concealed in deep space hangars, launched without warning, its ships emerging from the shadows to strike with deadly precision. The Krodan, lulled by their own arrogance, had not anticipated such a swift and calculated counterattack. The first wave of human ships, smaller and faster than their larger Krodan counterparts, darted through the chaos, their advanced weapons systems unleashing pinpoint strikes. The Krodan fleet was still in the process of coordinating defenses and recovering from their celebration, and the humans exploited this opening with devastating effect. The first targets were the Krodan communications arrays, which were destroyed in a series of quick, surgical strikes. Without communications, the Krodan forces found themselves isolated, unable to coordinate or call for reinforcements. Then came the disabling shots aimed at their main defense systems. Each blast was designed not to destroy, but to disable, shutting down shield generators, weapons systems, and key infrastructure, one system at a time. The Krodan ships, still recovering from the initial shock, were left unable to mount an effective defense. Their massive warships, once symbols of dominance, were now vulnerable to humanity's relentless offensive. High Commander Valrix was shaken, his stoic exterior cracking as reports of the assault flooded in. His first instinct was disbelief. He had long believed humanity to be weak, their technology primitive. But this was no ordinary attack, it was a highly coordinated, precise strike that crippled his fleet before it could retaliate. The Krodan war machine, so sure of itself moments before, was now reeling from the onslaught. His eyes narrowed in fury as he issued orders for a full counteroffensive, but there was an unsettling truth beginning to emerge. The humans were not the helpless, primitive species he had assumed them to be. As Valrix scrambled to regain control, humanity's forces pressed their advantage. Earth's ships, though smaller and less numerous, were armed with advanced weaponry designed to exploit the Krodan's weaknesses. They used speed and agility to outmaneuver their larger foes, striking with calculated precision before disappearing into the shadows of space. Human forces deployed guerrilla tactics, attacking in swarms and using hit-and-run tactics to disable key Krodan assets. The Krodan, in their overconfidence, had assumed that brute strength alone would win the day. But humanity's ingenuity, adaptability, and cunning were now on full display. The human fleet seemed to anticipate every Krodan move. As the Krodan regrouped and attempted to retaliate, humanity's ships adapted, dodging and weaving through enemy fire, exploiting the gaps in their defenses. Earth's fleet knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage. Every attack was calculated, designed to cripple the Krodan's infrastructure. As the battle raged on, Valrix's frustration grew. He had underestimated humanity's technological advancements and their ability to adapt to changing conditions. The Krodan were not used to fighting enemies who could think and plan like this, and it quickly became clear that their once unshakable confidence was misplaced. The Krodan soldiers, once so sure of their victory, now found themselves in chaos. Panic spread through the ranks as their fleet was systematically dismantled. Krodan warriors, used to conquering without resistance, were disoriented and afraid. The thought that humans, whom they had considered weak and primitive, could mount such an organized and effective defense was too much to process. In their panic, some Krodan commanders tried to issue orders, but communication breakdowns and confusion hampered their efforts. Ships turned on each other, caught in the crossfire of their own desperation. The Krodan, who had once crushed entire civilizations, were now crumbling under the weight of their own arrogance. Valrix watched in stunned silence as the reports came in. His fleet, once the most formidable force in the galaxy, was falling apart. The human ships, which had once seemed insignificant, were now dismantling the Krodan war machine piece by piece. His mind raced, trying to understand how this was possible. How had the humans outmaneuvered them so effectively? The arrogance that had served him so well in past campaigns now felt like a weight, dragging him down. His belief in Krodan supremacy was being shattered before his eyes, and he couldn't comprehend how this, weaker, species had turned the tide. As the Krodan fleet's numbers dwindled, Valrix made one final, desperate attempt to rally his forces. But the damage was done. The human fleet, now fully emboldened by their successes, pressed forward with unyielding resolve. The remaining Krodan ships, isolated and battered, were forced into a retreat. Valrix's once proud fleet was now a fraction of its former strength, and it was clear that the Kraden would not be able to maintain their hold on Earth. The humans had done what was once thought impossible. They had turned the tide of the war, and the Kraden were left scrambling to escape. As the battle drew to a close, the remaining Kraden ships fled, their pride shattered and their retreat marked by confusion and fear. Earth's forces had not only fought back, they had decisively proven that humanity would not be an easy conquest. And in the distance, the Kraden knew that their victory was no longer assured. They had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price for their arrogance. Enraged by the devastating loss and the shattering of his once unassailable pride, High Commander Valrix's fury knew no bounds. His mind, clouded with frustration and disbelief, turned to vengeance. He refused to accept the reality that humanity had bested him. The thought of retreat, of admitting defeat, was anathema to him. He would not go down without one last, merciless assault. In his mind, if he couldn't conquer Earth, he would make sure the planet paid the price for defying the Kraden Empire. Valrix ordered his remaining fleet, now a fraction of its former might, to launch a final strike against Earth's cities. His plan was simple. He would target the most populated areas and inflict maximum destruction, hoping to break the spirit of humanity in its final moments. His forces, though significantly weakened, were driven by their leader's unyielding pride and thirst for revenge. The remnants of the Kraden fleet, no longer focused on strategy, simply followed orders in a grim, desperate attempt to do as much damage as possible. Valrix's eyes burned with rage as his ships prepared to unleash a torrent of destruction on the Earth he could no longer control. Despite the devastating nature of Valrix's assault, humanity was not so easily broken. While the Kraden mobilized for their final attack, Earth's leaders had already anticipated this move. There was no time for hesitation. Human forces, both military and civilian, rallied together with unparalleled resolve. Cities braced for impact, and the global defense systems that had once been used for smaller skirmishes were now fully operational. Underground bunkers, satellite defenses, and energy shields were all activated, preparing for the Kraden's last desperate charge. The spirit of humanity was evident in every action. Every individual, whether a soldier or a scientist, was committed to ensuring that Earth would not fall to the invaders. Leading the defense was Agent Kira, a brilliant strategist known for her unwavering determination. She had spent countless hours studying Kraden tactics and their weaknesses, and now it was time to put everything into practice. Kira coordinated the planetary defenses, rallying the troops and civilians alike with a speech that rang with defiance and hope. She made it clear that humanity would not yield, no matter how desperate the situation seemed. Her voice, calm yet resolute, inspired those around her. The remaining Kraden forces would not find Earth an easy target, and the final defense would be the most powerful display of human resilience the galaxy had ever seen. As the Kraden fleet neared Earth's surface, they found themselves facing a wall of resistance unlike anything they had encountered before. Kira's strategic genius came to the forefront as she deployed decoys and misdirection to confuse the Kraden forces. Human ships, now operating in perfect coordination, drew the Kraden into a trap. They used advanced jamming technology to disable the Kraden's weapons systems, forcing the invaders to rely on brute force. It was a tactic Valrix had never anticipated, and it worked. Humanity's forces, armed with superior maneuverability and tactical brilliance, danced around the Kraden ships, striking when and where the enemy least expected. Every counterattack was swift and precise, taking down enemy ships piece by piece. Valrix, consumed by rage and disbelief, watched helplessly as his fleet crumbled before him. His confidence, so deeply ingrained, was now shattered. The truth became inescapable. Humanity was not the weak species he had believed them to be. His pride had blinded him, and now it was too late. He barked orders in desperation, but the tide of battle had already turned. His remaining forces, once formidable, began to falter under the relentless pressure. Valrix's failure was clear, but he refused to surrender. The idea of bowing to the humans, acknowledging their victory, was beyond his capacity. He ordered one last attempt to break through, but the humans were ready. In the midst of the chaos, Agent Kira devised a plan that would seal Valrix's fate. She understood that the key to victory was isolating the Krodan leader. She exploited the weaknesses in the Krodan fleet's remaining defenses, coordinating a final assault that would trap Valrix's command ship in a net of carefully placed energy fields. Using stealth tactics, a small, specialized team of human ships approached undetected, slipping through the chaos to board the Krodan flagship. The ship was swiftly surrounded, and the energy fields cut off all potential escape routes. Valrix, now fully aware that his defeat was inevitable, was captured. As the Krodan forces witnessed their leader's downfall, their morale crumbled. The once feared Krodan Empire was no longer a symbol of dominance. With Valrix's capture, the Krodan soldiers lost their will to fight. The realization hit them like a tidal wave: they had been bested by a species they had once considered beneath them. The remaining Krodan forces, in a final act of surrender, lowered their weapons. They had no choice but to acknowledge humanity's unyielding spirit and tactical brilliance. In the aftermath, Earth's victory was celebrated not just as a triumph of military strength but as a testament to human perseverance and unity. Valrix's arrogance had cost the Krodan Empire dearly, and their pride had been shattered by a species they had underestimated. Earth, once thought to be on the brink of annihilation, stood victorious, its people united in their defiance and their resilience. The message to the galaxy was clear: humanity would never be defeated. In the aftermath of the final battle, the people of Earth stood united, their voices rising in a chorus of triumph. The invasion, which had once seemed like an unstoppable force, had been repelled by their unwavering determination and strength. Celebrations erupted across the globe, from the bustling cities to the smallest rural villages. Everywhere, humans came together to honor their victory, remembering the countless lives that had been lost, the soldiers who had fallen, and the civilians who had supported them with every ounce of their being. This was not just a military victory, it was a testament to human resilience and unity. The leaders of Earth took a moment to reflect on how far they had come. What had once seemed like an impossible struggle had become a symbol of strength. They recognized that the victory wasn't just about defeating the Krodan, it was about proving to themselves, and to the galaxy, that Earth was a force to be reckoned with. The soldiers, strategists, and civilians who had fought and sacrificed were honored as heroes, their names etched into history. A profound sense of pride filled humanity, knowing that the universe would forever remember this moment as the day Earth proved its strength. As the celebrations continued on Earth, the remnants of the Krodan fleet limped back to their empire. They carried with them not only the physical scars of their defeat, but also the psychological weight of a loss that would forever haunt them. The stories of humanity's resilience and defiance spread like wildfire across Krodan society. For the first time, the Krodan began to realize the truth: they had underestimated their adversaries. They had assumed that Earth was nothing more than a primitive, defenseless world, easy to conquer and exploit. But they had been wrong. Krodan society, once dominated by pride and an unwavering belief in their superiority, now viewed humanity with caution and respect. The name of High Commander Valrix, once a symbol of strength and conquest, became a byword for failure and hubris. His downfall was discussed in every corner of Krodan society, a constant reminder of the consequences of underestimating those you deem inferior. Valrix's arrogance and overconfidence had led his people to disaster, and his name would forever be associated with the greatest defeat in the Krodan Empire's history. In Earth's wake, humanity's victory sent ripples throughout the galaxy. The Krodan Empire, though still a powerful force, would never be the same. The remnants of their fleet returned to their homeworld in disgrace, unable to shake the memory of their loss. Their once feared warriors now carried the knowledge that humanity was not to be underestimated. The universe had witnessed Earth's strength, and it had taken notice. The Krodan's arrogance had been shattered, and they would never again see humanity as a weak, primitive species to conquer. Back on Earth, leaders met to discuss the future. They knew that this victory was only the beginning. While they celebrated, they also understood the importance of preparation for whatever might come next. Earth's defenses, once thought sufficient, were now seen in a new light. The human race had faced an existential threat and emerged victorious, but they would never again assume that they were safe. The universe was vast, and other dangers lurked beyond the stars. Humanity's leaders vowed that Earth would never again be caught off guard. Their military, their science, and their unity would be fortified, ensuring that Earth would remain ready for any challenge. This victory had not only secured Earth's future but had also solidified humanity's place in the broader galactic community. No longer would they be seen as an insignificant, easy target. Earth had earned the respect of the universe, and from that day forward, humanity would be known not just for their ability to endure, but for their determination to stand firm against any adversary. As the story of their triumph spread, so did the legend of humanity's resilience. It became a beacon of hope to those who felt small and powerless in the face of greater forces. The message was clear: no matter how dire the situation, no matter how overwhelming the odds, humanity would never yield. Their spirit, their unity, and their unbreakable will would continue to inspire generations to come.